Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Wednesday, June the 22nd. This entire video is going to be devoted to Meghan Markle and the claims against bullying the staff. I believe bullying is a very important issue, especially bullying in the workplace. So this entire video is going to be dedicated to this. I'm going to be reviewing when I believe this all started with Meghan and why I believe it to be true. And we'll have discussion on it. So Meghan Markle bullies staff. Don't assume that there's no proof of bullying because the information will not be made public. Of course, that's what many people are saying, and of course, that's what her supporters say, that they didn't find anything, therefore, they're not making it public because there was nothing to be found. So I don't believe that to be the case, but they live in their own reality and believe what they want to believe. A victim of bullying has a right to their privacy for a reason. It's common sense. Full disclaimer can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for watching and for your support. These are my opinions and as such are not being stated as facts. Please do your own research into these discussions of stories and opinions. Let's recall the GMA report where Valentine Lowe from the Times talked about the bullying accusations inside Kensington Palace and when this was all coming out. And he said that they were very careful, that they had their legal team to go over this because they knew how litigious Harry and Meghan were and that they needed to be sure that the information that they had was accurate and could be backed up if needed to be proven in a court of law. I want to talk to you about just a little bit about the effects of bullying. If you've never been bullied, then there's no way that you can know exactly how it affects someone and what it does to a person. So I want to talk about that for just a minute. It does affect your health. The effects of workplace bullying don't end when you leave the office. Being a victim of bullying can cause physical and psychological health problems, including but not limited to higher blood pressure, mood changes, panic attacks, PTSD, stress, stomach ulcers, worry. It can cause all types of anxiety issues. People who are bullied at work may also experience other physical symptoms such as headaches, muscle tension, and changes in appetite. It can also impact sleep quality and duration. I don't really want to talk about myself, but I'm going to just tell you one thing. I worked for a company that I absolutely loved and had been there for a number of years. It was a company owned by a friend of mine who asked me to come work, and they had various locations, and I absolutely loved going in every single day. I was oversaw all of the stores, and I was marketing and public relations, and I couldn't wait to get in there each day. I took care of all of the social media, all of our interactions with charities and our clients, our IT systems and networks and training. There were just so many things, and it was everything that I loved to do. There was a lady that had come to work that company at one of our locations, and she was older than I was, and for some reason, this lady did not like me from the start. I tried everything I could to be friends with her, to get along with her, to treat her with respect. But through a number of years, it got to the point to where I couldn't take it anymore. I had found myself with higher blood pressure, having panic attacks. I was suffering from depression. I felt stress that I had never felt before, have stomach ulcers. I was worrying all the time. It was giving me insomnia at night. I was having a hard time eating. I developed type 2 diabetes, and my whole being, and I felt my whole personality was changing. I just was not the person that I was used to being. So I had tried discussing it, but I'll just say this, that I felt it was in my best interest to leave. Sometimes that's something you have to do because a person's not going to change, and I don't like conflict. And I left on very good terms, and that person I have not seen again. But she was also the reason that many other people left while I was working there. I couldn't understand how we had such good, dedicated, hardworking people, and after having interactions with her, just said it's not worth it. And many of them left because it affected them in very much the same way. I thought I was stronger, that no, I could prevent it from affecting me. But in the end, the only thing that was going to happen was one of us was going to have to leave, and I was happy to. It was a good thing for me. It affected me for a long time, a year or two after that, and I am just to the point to where I can talk about it and it not be so upsetting to me. It's a very, I don't even know how to describe it, demeaning, demoralizing. It affects your self-confidence. It affects your self-worth. It's like being in an abusive relationship in many ways. Emotional abusive relationship. Bullying in the workplace can increase the risk for negative physical effects and lead to decreased mental well-being for both the victims of bullying and their co-workers. Bullied workers cannot perform their jobs to the best of their ability. Performance issues include an incapacity to work or concentrate, a loss of self-esteem, having trouble making decisions, lowers your productivity. You're worried about avoiding the bully, networking for support, planning how to deal with the situation, ruminating the situation, and trying to defend yourselves. It leaves you feeling powerless, disoriented, confused, and helpless. What constitutes workplace bullying? Examples can include threats, humiliation, excessive monitoring, unjustified criticism, intentionally lying about work duties, and intimidation. They can sometimes try to turn other people against you, and out of other people's fear toward the bully, sometimes they will side with them because they're afraid that they will become their next target if they don't side with them. Good people are bullied at work. If you would describe yourself as caring, social, and collaborative, and an empath, which I am, and they seem to find you, this may be the reason that you are being bullied at work. To a workplace bully, those characteristics drain the power they have. Team building is the antithesis of what a bully wants. Bullies want to be in control and to call all the shots. So you may be targeted by bullies because you're a team player. I was a team player, and I was a leader. I didn't report to them. I report directly to the president and owner of the companies, and had a great relationship with them. And I kind of just didn't want the conflict, and didn't really want to deal with what was happening because I saw how the bully cozied up to them and tried to say things about not only myself, but other people. And believe me, I had a great work ethic, and I always had top reviews and was always very highly praised by the man that I worked for. And I very much respect him. So let's go up and let's get into it. We're going to talk about when this started, what's currently in the news, and just bring us up to date on it. I know everybody's feeling like they want this report to be published, and I understand, but there's reasons why it shouldn't be, and I want to explain those reasons in a moment. Palace report on Meghan's bullying has been buried, and this is an investigation into the claims that the Duchess of Sussex bullied members of her staff have led to Buckingham Palace improving the policies and procedures in its HR department, according to the royal sources. It had to be very difficult for these people because not only were they their bosses, but Harry and Meghan were also members of the royal family, and you're working for an institution that is the royal family or the firm. So it must have been even more difficult to even express what they were feeling or to share with a teammate or with HR what they were going through. The findings of the highly sensitive inquiry, which was paid for privately by the Queen and conducted by an independent law firm, will never be published. And they said this from the beginning. And again, while we may feel like we're entitled to this information, we're not. It's understood that it will be kept under wraps to protect the privacy of those who took part and limit tensions between the Sussexes and the palace. Courtiers have insisted the inquiry, which was launched back in March of last year, 2021, should not be played out in the public to ensure those who took part feel comfortable. Can you imagine if you were bullied in the workplace and then the HR department or the owner of the company went around talking to other staff members about what you had shared with them in confidence, how it had affected you, how embarrassing and humiliating that would make you feel, because you don't want to be looked at as a victim, even though in this instance you are. But you feel ashamed because you've never been a victim before, and it's not something that you want to be a part of, this victim mentality, but yet you found yourself in this position to where you're being bullied. The Daily Mail writes, Courtiers said it is an attempt to stop stoking tensions. Only 4 or 5 former members of the Sussexes team in total have been spoken to as part of the royal household. There's going to be some people that feel so stressed, traumatized by this, that and afraid that it would get leaked, that they don't want to talk about it, or they've tried to move on with their life, whether they found other work or not, and they don't want to relive one of the hardest experiences and most unpleasant things that they had to endure, and for the length of time that they did, and for the amount of time that it stays with you after the fact. The couple would have had up to 25 working for them at the time, many of whom could be considered potential witnesses. But nothing has been heard since last summer. Just over a year ago, the inquiry was launched. And it says that they have so far refused to divulge any of their findings or even confirm whether the results of the investigation will be included in this year's annual review, due to be published in June as previously suggested. I checked the website and the 22 report is not on there, so it has not been posted, and then I'll tell you that I found out later in this video that it is not going to be posted on there. And again, I think that's to protect the victims. It's important for us to tell all employees that we're able to contribute to their maximum potential with a working attitude that is based on mutual respect and trust. That's why we continue to raise the awareness of diversity and equal opportunities throughout our workforce in dealing with job applicants and other employees and the public. So they've made a lot of changes. So it was in March that Harry and Meghan said that the royal family were racist on the Oprah Winfrey show, and then a senior palace source said that the household had published the figures so that they could be no place to hide, and so that they would be held accountable if no progress is made in the future. So that's all been updated, and it said that during the interview, Harry and Meghan talked about Archie's skin tone. Then during the interview, they raised an issue about of course, racism, and then the Queen said some recollections may vary. The Duke of Cambridge also spoke out and said that we are very much not a racist family. In the UK, are whistleblowers protected by UK law? As a whistleblower, you are protected by law. You should not be treated unfairly or lose your job because you blow the whistle. You can raise the concern at any time about an incident that happened in the past, is happening now, or you believe will happen in the near future. Complaints that do not count as whistleblowing. You might be surprised. Personal grievances, for example, bullying, harassment, discrimination, are not covered by whistleblowing law unless unless your particular case is in the public interest. Well, this is why I believe that they are and should be protected, and it is in the public's interest because we all want to know about it, and the media will run with their own narratives and divulge the victim's identity. We know that their squad and paid people who work for them would go after them and try to dox them and put their private information out there, but also would bully and harass and troll them. This is why you cannot put the information out there about these people and why this report can never be put out. Also, Harry and Meghan could go after them and try to sue them on what they've said. Do these people need to suffer again and lose everything they have, or maybe not have the means to get a lawyer and pay these high-priced lawyer fees where Harry and Meghan can afford to do it, to go to court and perhaps still not win? Because the burden of proof would be upon them to be able to prove it. And anything that's put out in this report, Harry and Meghan could try to go back and sue them for defamation. It's not beyond what we've seen them do. So this is why I think it does fall under whistleblowing, because it is a particular case that's in the public interest. So again, people, as much as we want to know this, you have to think about the victims and not just what we want to know, or not just Harry and Meghan's fan base saying, see, there was nothing to it and that's why they buried it. That's not true. If there was nothing to it, then they would have come out and said, we found nothing here. You know, they would have been happy to report that. But what I'm thinking is they have had to pay a lot of compensation to these victims behind the scene. They've also had to change their workplace HR laws and to make sure nothing like this happens again, even if it is a royal that is being called the so-called bully, that there has been a lot that they've had to do to protect Harry and Meghan. So again, it's not that they're not wanting to release it out of protecting them. They need to protect the victims, and that's the right thing to do. Of course, a Deadline reports Meghan Markle supporters fire back online at Buckingham Palace leaked bullying report. So they went after them and are still attacking them because they're burying the report. They don't know that that they're really hurting Meghan by doing this, because if it ever did come out, I know good and well, and you all know that there's going to be information that would be very damaging to Meghan and the staff that she worked for, or that worked for her, excuse me. So it says a fierce backlash has erupted on a leaked report that Buckingham Palace investigated Meghan Markle's alleged bullying of staff. Of course, this was what they expected. It was expected that they would come out and do this the same way they would the victims. And guys, if you really think about if this were to happen to you, would you want it out there? Would you want people harassing you, newspapers calling and your phone and asking you to give them a statement about what happened and to be hounded and chased? That's re-victimization. You don't do that to people. So Newsweek says, decision to bury Meghan Markle bullying report blasted. It never ends. A report suggesting that the findings of a private investigation into the allegations of bullying lodged against Meghan Markle by former palace staff members are being buried has been blasted on social media, with users asking why the results aren't being released. I've heard other people already reporting on this and saying that they have a right to see it, that it ought to be public knowledge. No, it shouldn't be, and it will never be. And we don't have a right to see it. We can say that we want to see it, but it doesn't mean that we need to see it. Again, it's about the victims. This is their story. And should they ever want to come forward and talk about it, maybe they've talked about it to Tom Bauer in his book. It's been stated that alleged victims of bullying have spoken to Tom Bauer, and that information will be revealed in his book. But that's the ones that chose to do it. You can't release the Buckingham Palace report, because I'm sure that many, if not all, have said, I don't want this information out there. I don't want it to follow it throughout my lifetime. I don't want it to be in paper, and I don't want Harry and Meghan to call me up like they did Jason Knopf to talk to him after he gave information to the High Court about Meghan participating with the book Finding Freedom. And then she was told not to contact him again. She went directly to him. She doesn't see what she's done. She doesn't think she does anything wrong. So, of course, an activist and social media user, this Malimi, took to Twitter and said, so the royal family's report on alleged Meghan Markle bullying of staff is now buried, and she should just forget about it after so many attempts to bury her name and reputation. In fact, she was bullied for months. Let's see the report, he wrote. You don't want to see it because it wouldn't be good. And then another one, broadcaster Lorraine King, also posted to her skepticism over the report. Why won't Buckingham Palace release the report? Into claims that Meghan Markle bullied staff, she wrote. Could it be because it exonerates her of any wrongdoing, paints Buckingham Palace in a bad light, or both? Why would it paint them in a bad light except the fact that Harry and Meghan were their family and that Harry and Meghan were able to get away with this without the people in the right positions knowing? So this is a picture of Lorraine King. And then we have Christopher Boozy, the founder of Bot Sentinel, which you all know is a tax and has just got Meghan Mole removed off Twitter along with Ellie Hall from BuzzFeed. And it continues to go after YouTubers because he works for people like Meghan Markle and Amber Heard and Kamala Harris. The people who call it misinformation, but it's the truth, and they just don't like it. He said, an online platform monitoring social media activity also commented on the decision. Though Bot Sentinel, Boozy has investigated targeted attacks on social media against Meghan and Prince Harry, he said. He didn't investigate anything. He looks up hashtags that any of us could pull their same report. Why announce you are launching a probe into Meghan Markle bullying claims, but refuse to release the findings of the probe? Seems like they didn't find anything, or they're too embarrassed to admit nothing was found. No, Mr. Boozy, you're wrong. And the problem is you're on the wrong team and you believe the wrong person. Just because somebody is paying you to work for them doesn't mean that you have to believe the lies and dribble that they feed to you. This was echoed by another user who posted, so let me get this straight. The royal family wants to bury an investigation that was launched to smear Meghan before the Oprah interview. Besides the PR blunder that was, you don't think that they would use it to bash her if something was there? No, I don't. And anybody who thinks that report should be published sounds like the Sussex Squad. No, the royal family does not bash anyone, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't use it to bash Harry and Meghan, and people are saying they're using it as ammunition should they ever need to, should there be a divorce. That may be the case, but I don't think the information about the victims will ever be published, and I believe Harry and Meghan have already been made aware of the report and what's had to be done to fix the issue, but they're not going to tell you that. Of course they're not, but I believe the Queen has made it apparent to them what the findings were and the mess that they had to clean up behind them. But you'll never hear Mary and Meghan go after it. And if they did believe that this was false or that they were being disparaged, why didn't they sue them? Why didn't they sue the royal family? Sue them to see the report. The investigation undertaken privately was to look into allegations. Now, the Times immediately before the broadcast said that Meghan, by royal household staff members, followed the leak of a key email to the Times immediately before the broadcast of the Sussexes' interview with Oprah in 2021. The email was written by former Kensington Palace Press Secretary Jason Knopf to the private secretary of Prince William and read, I am very concerned that the Duchess was able to bully 2 PAs out of the household in the past year. The treatment of X, and the name's been redacted, was totally unacceptable. The Duchess seems intent on always having someone in her sights. She is bullying Y, name removed, and seeking to undermine her confidence, he said. We have had to report after report from people who have witnessed unacceptable behaviors toward Y, the unnamed victim. The publication of the email sparked a chain reaction from both Buckingham Palace and Meghan's communication team in Los Angeles. I'm sure they reached out to Harry and Meghan and told them that we've had reports of this and that we were going to have to do an internal investigation. And just like if there was an internal investigation at a workplace, the informations of that investigation or nor any of the testimony given by the victims or witnesses should ever be released. That's private. That's HR, human resources information. And you don't release that kind of workplace information. It would be against the law. So it said, the Duchess is saddened by the latest attack on her character, particularly as someone who has been the target of bullying herself. Meghan, you said you had receipts. Give us one example of how you were bullied. And is deeply committed to supporting those who have experienced pain and trauma. Meghan's response to the email, released by a spokesperson, said, she is determined to continue her work building compassion around the world. I can't even read it. It's just so sickening. We are clearly concerned about the allegations in the times following claims made by former staff of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the palace said in a statement at the time. Accordingly, our HR team will look into the circumstances outlined into the article. And it says that that members of staff involved at the time, including those who had left the household, will be invited to participate to see if lessons can be learned. The statement continued, the royal household has had a dignity at work policy in place for a number of years and does not and will not tolerate bullying or harassment in the workplace. They did what they had to do. The results of the investigation were expected to be published in the Sovereign Grant Report for the financial year 2021-22 later this month, but the Sunday Times reported that it is no longer the case. I went on the Royal website and I showed you earlier that the 2022 report is not there, but that this is saying that it will no longer be published there. And it shouldn't be. You can't give any hints of the information that's in there. So I don't know why some people think that they have the right to see this just because you want to know. You can't. By withholding the findings from the public, some commentators have claimed that the palace could be using them against Meghan as leverage for a royal ceasefire ahead of the publication of Harry's memoir and the reports of a potential second interview with Oprah Winfrey on the horizon. I don't think Harry's going to put anything in his book about the bullying. I don't think that Oprah Winfrey will ever give them another interview. And if she did, she wouldn't let them get away with only talking about their truths like she did in the first time. That is one of the biggest stains on Oprah's reputation, and I don't think she cares to revisit it. So, broadcaster Peter Ford asked about the morning show in Australia on Monday if the move was almost like sending a warning shot to Harry and Meghan, saying, we've got some information in our bottom drawer. See, this is all conspiracy theories, and anybody from the squad or their supporters that are going to go back and say they buried it because there was no findings. It's wrong. You're just not thinking logical. I'm just not into the conspiracy theories. I like to look at things logically, look at the information that's out there, and form an opinion after looking at both sides of things. He then went on to say, I think that's how it reads to me. Otherwise, why wouldn't you release it? Well, Mr. Australian commentator, and we'll discuss it more in a moment, but let's continue. I think that's you just building up something in your mind, and I hate how people look at stuffs out there, and there's conspiracy theories on both sides, the supporters and the non-supporters, and it just doesn't do you any good to get into that. Because, I mean, I'm not saying don't question things, like, we question things about the kids and, if she gave birth or if they have both their DNA, but the truth is, we don't know. All we can do is question it, but we can't really say one way or the other. All you can do is have a discussion about it, and you can have your opinion about it. So, how Meghan and Harry are described by palace staff in the bombshell new book, We're talking about Tom Bower. Meghan Markle author says her victims will speak despite the legal battles. So Tom is saying that there is going to be information in his upcoming book to be released about Meghan's treatment of the palace staff. This harassment of Meghan Markle is just sickening, of course, and here's her people again. Look at all the people. It's all the activists. Now, let's go into this because this is going to set up what happened before. If you think that people were bullying Meghan Markle, then we need to revisit a few things leading up to the wedding that show that it was other people who were being bullied by Meghan besides the direct staff that works for her. So let's talk about some of these things. So the Queen warned Prince Harry over Meghan Markle's difficult behavior after Roe over bride's tiara for royal wedding. Her Majesty stepped in after the couple were unhappy at being told difficult Meg's first choice was off limits, written by Dan Wooten. The extraordinary intervention from the monarch came after tense negotiations over what Meghan could wear. And we're not going to go into the whole tiara gate. We're going to just keep it simple. Robert Johnson, who is a royal reporter, reveals that Harry told staff before the wedding, what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. So if the soon-to-be husband of Meghan is going around telling everybody, do what she wants, whatever she wants, she gets. Aren't you going to be afraid to tell him that you're being bullied by his future wife? Of course you are. And it was said that it was told to Harry, allegedly, and that Harry asked people to bury it, to not take it any further, to not do anything about it. A well-placed royal insider said Meghan had her heart set on the tiara with emeralds, and Prince Harry hit the roof when they were told it was impossible for her to wear it. But the reason why is because of where it originally come from. There's so much it comes out about the jewels, and that all the history has to be kept on it, that you can't be seen wearing something that's controversial if it's mined from like blood diamonds or jewels or something, and it depends on where it's come from. So it said there was a very heated exchange that prompted the Queen to speak to Harry. She said, Meghan cannot have whatever she wants. She gets what tiara she's given by me. The Queen also questioned why Meghan needed a veil for her wedding, given it was to be her second or possibly third marriage. The message from the Queen was very much Meghan needed to think about how she speaks to staff members and to be careful to follow family protocols. Well, Meghan's problems with protocol began ahead of the wedding because of how they treated Angela Kelly and how they treated other people when Meghan wanted things at her fingertips. It has also emerged Meghan and Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, had clashed over the treatment of staff. So after Catherine found out about some of the things that Meghan had done, and William, it was allegedly said that they tried to speak to her to say, we don't treat our staff that way. And supposedly Meghan was in their apartment at Kensington Palace and was rude to one of the house staff members of William and Catherine. And Catherine said, we don't treat the people who work with us like that. We just don't. So Meghan was used to getting her own way. And the royal insider had added that Meghan could be very difficult. However, there's a different degree of respect in the royal household, and Kate has always been very careful about how she has acted around staff. So Meghan Markle received stern message from the Queen Elizabeth after scolding staff over eggs, claims royal expert. Now, leading up to their weddings, they were having some of food tasting that was going to be food held at either the breakfast or the reception for Harry and Meghan's wedding. So in the days leading up to it, Meghan Markle received stern words from Queen Elizabeth II over eggs, according to a royal expert. Katie Nicholl, a British best-selling author and royal correspondent for Vanity Fair, said Markle had insisted on there being a microbiotic alternative for some of the Hollywood stars' guests attending the ceremony who followed the diet. Yeah, a few Hollywood stars that she didn't know. I don't think they really wrote in and said, are you going to be able to take care of our dietary requirements? Meghan got very upset when she felt that she could taste egg in a dish when she was told there was no egg in there, and she said, No, I can taste it. I can taste there's eggs in this dish, Nickel told Yahoo's Royal Box on Friday. I think there was a bit of an upset when suddenly the Queen walked in because, of course, this was at Windsor Castle. This is her home, continued Nickel, and she just quietly took Meghan to the side and said, Meghan, in this family, we don't speak to people like that. This should have been Meghan's wake-up call, in my opinion. After the Queen of England has pulled you aside, and after William and Catherine have talked to her to say we don't treat people that way, and yet she still did it. If she would do this in the Queen's house and then be overheard by the Queen, there was no way of her denying it. So for people to think that Meghan was this angel, she wasn't, and the proof is here. We just have to go back and revisit it. The Queen put Meghan on that world stage before she was even a member of the royal family. And for anybody who thought that she was treated badly, you're very mistaken. She was put on there even before she was a member of the royal family, said Nickel. I remember being really struck by that, surprised and impressed. The way Meghan had been fast-tracked into the royal family has been quite unique. Meghan was treated better than the other members prior to their royal marriages, better than Kate, better than Sophie, better than Diana, Sarah, anybody else that had been brought into the royal family. Until they were married, they weren't invited up to Sandringham. They weren't invited to go on royal tours or to go out and do things on behalf of the Queen. Meghan was. Meghan Markle was the only one. So for anyone who doesn't think that she was treated fairly, you only have to look back at how she was actually treated better and given preferential treatment. Was that because they were afraid of what would be said because of the color of her skin? It might have been. I don't know. Maybe they were just so happy that Harry finally had somebody that was willing to marry him and to stay and to be a part of him and to be a part of the royal family. Whatever their reasons were, that's their reasons. But I think that they were very kind to do it. And maybe I think they felt so bad for Harry that Harry didn't want to be alone when everybody else was married and to go to these family gatherings, that they thought maybe that would help him out. Because again, Harry is always somebody who's been given his way, who throws tantrums when things aren't done for him. Maybe he asked and they originally said no and he threw a tantrum and they finally gave in. We'll never know. Perhaps Elizabeth could sense that her grandson was deeply concerned about what the future held for him before he met Markle through a mutual friend. I think it was through Eugenie, his cousin. So I've explained to you the reasons why I feel that the report shouldn't go out, and why I hope people will consider the victims before continuing to say the report should be published, and think about what they went through and what they will continue to go through. And this will always be a part of them. This is a trauma they've experienced, and while they'll learn to live with it and to get on with their lives, you won't ever forget about it. And it will always dredge up feelings of anxiety and just bad thoughts of how it affected them. So that's why the report won't go out. So let's think about the victims in this case, because Meghan certainly doesn't. Just like she went to the Texas site of the Texas shooting and didn't think about the victims, although she was trying to be there on behalf of them, but she used it as a PR stunt. And now we have Harry, and I'll talk about the Ukraine incident where there had a paramedic using body cam footage to take visuals, images of people being rescued and what it was like over in the war zones of Ukraine. So again, they monopolize on people that are victims and on tragedies. So let's not make this another tragedy for the victims, and let's be supportive of the royal house and say we understand why this can't go out. And for other people who are saying that they're burying it because there was no foundings, tell them, is it very likely? Or is it likely that they're protecting the victims because they did find something? They wouldn't have investigated if there weren't clear issues and enough evidence to show that there was true statements being made. And why not? Why would they bring in a law firm to do it where it would all be done legally and upright? And if something came out about it, or Meghan and Harry tried to sue for a copy of it, then they had a law firm conducting this, and that it was being independently done and would be able to protect them from somebody taking legal proceedings against them. And I think the royal family did this also to protect the victims so that they couldn't be forced in court to have their information and their testimony be released. So let me know what you think in the comments, and you can disagree. You may feel differently, but I've thought about this a lot, and that's just my opinion. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but that's what we do. We discuss, and sometimes we change our opinions based on what other people talk to us about or educate us about. I know I've done that. I learned so much from different viewpoints. So share your thoughts and feelings, and let me know how you're all doing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.